Hello YouTube, this is Ben Yessel. How's it going? So, this is going to be another video game review. I'm trying out different video games, seeing if, of course, if anything is going to be more enjoyable than Baldur's Gate. It's just kind of annoying that so many games are not. But, I think gonna try Divinity Original Sin 2 shortly. It's on sale for a bit in Steam. So let's hope that that is going to be more in that ballpark. But I'm trying out a kind of a point-and-click historical fiction game, which had outstanding reviews, but and it actually is pretty good in certain respects. And this game is called Pillars of the Earth, based on a novel by a British guy, Ken Follett. And, of course, like many of my other video game reviews, I'm going to try not to give too many spoilers or keep the plot out of this, but I've actually only played through half the game. But I played through enough of it that I can tell you what I think of it so far, and its pros and cons, mainly, that sort of thing. So, alright. First off, I just want to say, there are times when you feel like you have choices, but there are often other times when you feel like there's one direction that they're kind of wanting you to go. It's always a question, if you're developing this kind of game, how linear or how non-linear you want the game to be. Sorry about that, folks. So, sorry. Okay. Yeah, how linear do you want it to be? Now, if you go with a super linear, but very, 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 very gripping storyline, the stronger the story is, the more the linearity isn't quite as annoying. But I think the majority of people out there want more choices, yet still a very gripping storyline, or a good storyline at least, something that they actually care about, to make them want to play the game more. So it's still in the middle somewhere, and in this game, I think no matter how many choices you do have choices that affect the game. It is non-linear, but not to the extent that you might think it is. I think with this, I would have preferred. I thought I was going to be playing something a bit more, a little more fantasy oriented, and my personal preference is more toward fantasy adventure rather than historical fiction. However, there's enough going on with it right now that there's still a window into at least one dimension of, we'll just say, supernatural, and because it's so kind of Catholic Church oriented, or at least medieval Catholic Church, right? There's a side to that that's kind of scary and eerie, and dark cathedrals and dark, just the stuff that you guys already are kind of pretty much familiar with. I think a little bit with medieval Catholicism. So, yeah. So, it's kind of, let me see. So far, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it an 8. That seems a little bit severe. It should be a 9, but it's because of how limited sometimes you find yourself. Like, you can't go. It's a classic problem of the point-and-click adventure game. You often can't get past a certain point, and so until you find how you can get past that point, you're going to be, pulling your hair out trying to. So it just takes a lot of time. point-and-click adventure games, by the way, in that respect, are just if they stress these really specific puzzles, and then you have to do this one thing to progress, it's just a real downside to the whole point-and-click adventure thing. It shouldn't have to be something, you know. And this is even more the case with Tale of, I don't know, another point-and-click adventure game I played a while back. I haven't even finished yet. Unanswered I don't know. It's a funny game, but puzzles were really, really. So, you know, point-and-click adventures, this is my main beef, again, with them, is that they just don't. They don't often consider how frustrating it can be for you know, gamers to. You know, I'm actually pretty intelligent. I can figure things out pretty well. But it's just, you know, like there was one time in this game where I had to burden down a cathedral just to, I mean, like, you know, I there's actions I typically wouldn't do that I've done just to move the story forward. Maybe there's a way of avoiding that, but just, so it's that kind of stuff. So I hate feeling like I'm kind of cajoled into something just because I need to do that to move the game forward. That's really annoying. And it's a downside to this game. Along with sometimes you're, oh my gosh, I just had to do this little thing and I'm good to go. That kind of thing. Like, fortunately, I haven't had to look up anything except one little roadblock today in that regard. So that's actually, this game is better off than, again, most other point-and-click adventure games in the past and things that, you know. So anyway, you have to just think about things in terms of, you want a lot of things to be of medium difficulty. The hard ones shouldn't be too remotely weird to try to figure out, kind of thing. You know. Really, in all honesty, point-and-click adventures shouldn't always be about the hurdle to jump through. It should be about a lot more stuff, I think. Anyway, so this game is worth getting, I suppose. But it's historical fiction, not really fantasy or so much. So if you enjoy medieval European history, this might be, the more you like that stuff, the more you might like this kind of game. But, you know, it's kind of like Robin Hood. It's about the same era. Maybe a teensy bit more realistic and kind of gritty realistic in some respects. A little less family friendly, a little bit more villainy is kind of very villainous. So, put it that way, I guess. Yeah, so. But, you know, it's a mysterious quality about the game, which oftentimes it comes up with the, you know, because point-and-click adventure games are often a little bit slower paced, so you get more into the feel, the background music, and the animation, and the lighting of different buildings and things, and you get that feeling of, you know, so it stays with you, it stays in your subconscious, a little more. Which I think is a positive thing. It's a good thing. For instance, you know, I mean, like in a Baldur's Gate game, you know, I thought, oh man, these temples you go into, at least in the second Baldur's Gate 2, it's the temple district, right, in Athkatla, that should be really memorable, right? Just like, I guess, in Baldur's Gate itself, you know, in the first game, when you go into, well, you know, the buildings there were, I think, very memorable, for the most part. I remember Sorcerer's Sunders was one of my favorites, as well as a museum, you know, in Baldur's Gate. And then there's other places, the fair, you know, that Wizard's Tall Tower. There's a lot of buildings that were in Athkatla. It was still memorable, the Temple District, and certainly many other places like the Bridge District, or that market there, and seediness of the port and the seedy, really sketchy copper cornet. You know. Anyway, this is Baldur's Gate. This is a different game, but I just kind of comparing the strength of these memories with something like this in this game. And in Pillars of the Earth. In Pillars of the Earth, I'd say because of the quality of the animation and how focused around it the animation the whole game is, that there's just as good of a chance of this staying in your memory as some of the best or most memorable things in Baldur's Gate. And in Baldur's Gate, even though the gameplay is so amazing, you're kind of away enough from the hub of it all. You mean like you're kind of looking down from everything from a little bit of distance, somewhat. So it maybe sometimes isn't quite as vivid. All depends on the scene, somewhat. But anyway. Oh, some other things about the game. So there's I thought I'd have a lot more items in my inventory and stuff like that sort of stuff. You don't really have very much at any one time. And what you do have are very kind of more or less rudimentary sorts of things that you can use, for different, characters, to see what the effect is. And of course, yeah, it's great for your mind. It helps you to kind of think outside the box and all that stuff. It really is, but it just lacks something. I think what that something is it's fun to get a lot of things in your inventory, to be able to find things to put them in your inventory. And this game doesn't emphasize that so much. It emphasizes more what you can do with certain things. I mean, there's one character, for instance, Jack, who has a slingshot that doesn't really seem to go away. It's a pretty consistent item that Jack has, object that he has. So you can do a lot of things with your slingshot, but whatever else you find, So just in terms of that whole love of inventory and item things, it isn't really a big part of the game. It is, but it isn't. It's more like you can do a lot of different things with just a smaller number of items, and sometimes it's just a small thing to mention, but some of you guys might not like that as much. There's also, in terms of just the animation and color and things, it's actually pretty good. It has more color in a way than the Dragon Age games. The Dragon Age games just had a lot of browns and tans and grays and green, sure, but whatever other colors there were very, very not so common. In this game, this is kind of it strikes kind of a medium area, moderate. It's moderately colorful. It's not as colorful as Legend of Corandia or Wheel of Time. These really vivid colors. Alice in Wonderland. Those are really games that just have color up the yin yang. It's just extremely vivid, bright, memorable colors. And then, of course, Dragon Age is on the other side of this, very muted colors. A lot of grays, and everything's grayed down a little bit. There's other games that are even more muted, or they're just very, almost monotone. I just played, again, the KOTOR, Star Wars KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, and that was kind of middle of the road, but going, there was a very much in every area of that game. It was like, Kashyyyk, whatever, with the Wookiees was very green and brown, and Manon was very blue and gray, very gray especially, and Korriban was kind of a gray and brown as well, tan, I guess you'd say, and but different areas in the Korriban. And then Dantooine was kind of tan, brown again, with a little bit of green. I mean, but each area, each world had kind of a set color tone. So I would put actually Star Wars KOTOR more on the not so colorful and kind of pretty close to Dragon Age. that all being said, of course, Dragon Age also had more color with all the spells and things, whatever. But so this game is somewhere in the middle, where you have the forests are very foresty and green, the sheep and the markets. You can see the red apples and pretty vivid color, fairly vivid colors, And the style of the animation, though, is also very interesting. It reminds me a little bit more of somewhere in between, not really anime, but it seems like it's a little bit of Japanese animation meets something more what you'd see like in a religious cartoon, perhaps, or the style of animation they used, maybe in Howl's Moving Castle, or something along those lines. So, like European/Asian production, or maybe it was Europe. In this case, this game, The Pillars of the Earth. It's a European thing, definitely. But I also saw some Japanese animation elements, but more in a not so much in a cutesy anime way, more just kind of, I don't know, regular animation kind of thing. But anyway, the other thing about The Pillars of the Earth is that there were, the villainy, or we'll say sometimes the intensity of certain characters are much higher than in many other games, because it just feels more realistic. It feels, you have swords and, daggers, and when someone pulls out their sword and, certain scenes, you feel it, right? It's pretty intense, and you see the emotions of the characters a lot more vividly. Their facial expressions, everything from the nicer folks, the good folks, to not so good, evil. And it makes it more like a movie. But again, it's like an interactive kind of thing. So that's more on the good side. It's a strong point of the game. It's also very kind of have your poor folks in England, them trying to try to figure things out, band together, and hope the next day is a better day. And you have those guys, as well as some elements of the nobility, and also the church, but more emphasis on the church somewhat. All right, we'll say the Catholic Church in England back in that time period, 1100s. So yeah, it's monarchy, or I guess nobility, the church, and peasants, and a lot of different kinds of peasants. And it's like a triangle kind of thing. It keeps going back and forth through all these different kinds of these three different kinds of societies. Yeah, monarchy, church, peasants, and with the peasants, there's at least two. Anyways, two different. I don't know. One group was, without spoiling in too much for you, one group consists of a brother and sister that their dad was kicked out of his castle, died in prison. They're trying to avenge him, and that's one group. Another group is two families have banded together that were poor. There's a mother that lives in the forest, their son, and a father who has two kids that is a mason, builder, whatever, stonemason. And then you have a guy that's a priest, or is elected to become the next prior of a small area, little priory, I guess. And then his dealings with the bishop, his superior. And then you have some other folks that are in the nobility. Most of the nobles in this game, a lot of them are evil. So, one in particular so far. So, anyway, hopefully you get an idea what this game's like. I think I got it might be on sale right now on Steam. But let me know if you have any questions. And again, this is a video game review of Pillars of the Earth. talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.